Hello, everyone, and welcome to Out of the Box podcast. In this episode, we are going to be reviewing M. Night Shyamalan's Glass, and this is a non-spoiler review.
Glass is the conclusion to the M. Night Shyamalan trilogy that started with Unbreakable and Split. In this film, we see the return of some characters we have become familiar with from the previous films. There's David Dunn, played by Bruce Willis. He has superhuman strength and can see the crimes that somebody has recently committed by simply touching them. We see Kevin Crumb, played by James McAvoy, a man with 24 distinct personalities, with one of them being the Beast, who's part man, part animal, superhuman. Then we have the mastermind, Elijah Price, also known as Mr. Glass, played by Samuel L. Jackson. We also see returning cast of Anya Taylor-Joy as Cassie Cook, Spencer Treat Clark as Joseph Dunn, and Charlene Woodard as Elijah's mother. Introducing Sarah Paulson as psychiatrist Dr. Ellie Staple.
David Dunn has adopted the vigilante lifestyle with the help of his son. He seeks after the man responsible of kidnappings in Philadelphia. When he finds him, he meets the Beast, and they go off into a fight. They both get apprehended by the police and sent to a psych ward, which just so happens to be housing Elijah. With all these three characters under the same roof, they face off in a comic book storyline come to life. Now, we have mentioned the cast that has been in the movie, and that also includes James McAvoy. What did you think about James?
He definitely showed tremendous range, being able to portray so many different personalities, being able to switch from Patricia to Dennis to Hedwig. It was just probably the best character in the movie. This little 9-year-old kid that's portrayed by James McAvoy. That was awesome. To even the Beast, like he was able to, at the drop of a hat, change which character, and he would do it within the same shot, switch between 3 or 4 different characters. I thought that was just outstanding.
Yeah, I definitely think that this was the standout performance of the entire film based on all of the actors there. James McAvoy playing all these characters was definitely the best of his career so far.
Yeah, he definitely brought a wide range of emotions to the character, too. You can see the fear that he would have in one scene, and then the anger he would bring in another scene. And he even was humorous. Everything that he brought, the fear, the anger, the humor, etc. Hedwig, the best character in the movie. And Samuel L. Jackson, a living legend, returning to reprise his role as Elijah. What did you think of his role in this film?
Well, I don't think it was the biggest role he's ever played in his career, but in terms of impact to the story, I think he delivered as much as he could. And with it being Samuel Jackson, better than if another actor would have portrayed that character. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely don't think he had a lot to play with. He didn't impact the story a ton, but he definitely, I think, was a linchpin. I think without Elijah and him becoming Mr. Glass, the story wouldn't actually work as well. And you really wouldn't be able to believe everything in this movie could actually happen, which he actually did make it believable with his performance.
I think M. Night Shyamalan really did do a decent job with writing this character, but in this film, it kind of was lackluster.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the arc from Unbreakable to this film, and you can see that connection, but they're just... something wasn't there. That spark wasn't there like there was in the first Unbreakable, which she was just fantastic in.
Now, with Bruce Willis. That one's an iffy one.
Yeah, I have some pretty harsh words about him. I felt like he was sleepwalking to another paycheck. He has been doing not the best films recently. His most recent films, Death Wish and Once Upon a Time in Venice, not very good movies. Seemed like his best performances were in the past. I don't think he really cares too much about having a great portrayal, and I think it kind of showed. I think he was one of the weakest links of this film.
Yeah, I think it was Bruce Willis acting that did not help with the character, and also the way the character is written. I feel like there was not much emotion tied into that character. I think that this character was best portrayed in Unbreakable rather than this movie, Glass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the problems which you brought up, the writing, I think one of the problems was that M. Night Shyamalan thought that you had to have seen Unbreakable in order to understand this character, and that simply wouldn't work. We look at franchises like the MCU, even though you haven't seen the film before, they'll still explain why you should care about that character in this film. So I don't feel like he actually did that in this movie. He just, if you saw Unbreakable, you would understand, but most people didn't see Unbreakable.
Now, with Sarah Paulson, I don't know. She just was there to just drive the twist, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't think she had a ton. She was on screen for a long time. I think probably, 15 minutes of screen time, really?
Probably total.
Yeah. She definitely gives a quality performance, as she always does, like she does with any other role. Like Ocean's 8, she was good in that. But again, it wasn't a standout. She never is the standout in anything she does, but she's always a nice surprise.
I think the most standout thing she's done is her roles in American Horror Story, but not in this role she plays as a psychiatrist in Glass.
Yeah, she's pretty good, but again, not essential to the story. The other supporting characters were all right. Anya Taylor-Joy was good, but they did not have much to do outside of just small plot points to move the story forward.
It was just nice to see the same actors reprise their roles.
Yeah, with Spencer Treat Clark coming back to play Joseph Dunn, the same kid who played Joseph in the original. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
And also Elijah's mom was also the same actor as well.
I wasn't sure, but yeah, she actually ends up being the same actress, so that is really cool. How do you think this story is? How do you think it holds up?
I think it picks up pretty well from the previous films, but again, like you said before, we do suggest watching Unbreakable and Split before seeing Glass to get a better understanding of the characters' motives.
Yeah, exactly. Parts of it don't think it's explained in this film, so you should probably go back, watch those movies. You have a better understanding of what Glass is giving you. Throughout the story, the pacing is pretty good. The pacing's pretty smooth. It jumps from one scene to the next plot point and all. So I give the movie that. But in the second act, there was a lot of exposition that attempt to have the audience and the characters question if what they actually believe is real. There is a lot of dialogue in the middle, not a ton of action. So just be prepared for that.
There's something that I really do enjoy in films, and that is foreshadowing and twist, which this movie has a lot of. Maybe too much for my liking. It was maybe a little too obvious, but it does have a lot of foreshadowing twists that you got to keep an eye out for.
I mean, it is M. Night Shyamalan, so
exactly.
You got to expect that from him at least. Again, there are still some small details in this movie. I feel like we couldn't buy into the emotional attachment that we're supposed to have to most of these characters. There are some unnecessary plot lines that were simply not needed.
Yeah, exactly. Like Sarah Paulson's character, Dr. Staple, she was just one of them. It just dug a deeper hole that probably did not need to be there.
Exactly. I definitely agree with that. Now, the visuals were actually pretty pleasing. What do you think about that, though?
I think it was one of the better M. Night Shyamalan films with visuals.
Yeah, I definitely think that where we are today with the cameras and CGI, I think it definitely plays well into what M. Night Shyamalan was trying to accomplish. So I think he did pretty well with that. There were some questionable cinematography choices. For me, I probably would have preferred less shaky cam. There was one scene in particular that I think it just kind of took me out of the scene because of the shaky cam.
Yes, I agree with that, especially in IMAX. If you see it on a bigger screen, it's very noticeable. Now, in the film, there is a lot of camera angles that are very essential to furthering the plot, and I felt like a lot of the close-up shots did a really good job of saying, hey, pay attention to this. It's going to be important for the rest of the film.
For me, I just love action. The thing I was looking forward to this movie was the battles between David Dunn and the Beast. That was cool action. That was the thing I was looking forward to. I think it delivered on that.
Now, in the beginning, I would have said that the action just seemed a little fake. I'm not saying that the Beast is a real thing, but it did look like it was edited in there and wasn't really James McAvoy as the Beast. But as it went on, the story, as it went on, I believe that the action got better and more realistic as it could be.
Now, one of my favorite parts of the film is actually the final battle and the scene of James McAvoy running across that field to get to David Dunn. I think that's probably one of the best visuals in the movie. And it's in the trailer, this when he's on all fours, he's running across.
So it's not a spoiler.
Yeah, it's not a spoiler. He's on all fours, he's running across the field. I think that's probably one of the best shots that's in the movie.
Now, overall, though, did this film work for you?
Well, part of the intrigue is based on the previous films and what they built so far. I really enjoyed the comic book themes. It really showed M. Night Shyamalan's love for comic books as well. But this film did not make the story feel complete like I was hoping. I can always appreciate connective tissues between films and a franchise, but it cannot be the only thing holding up the story. I believe there could have been more clear lines for what the characters' motivations are. I did not receive the closure I thought I would get. I believe this movie also could have ended probably 10 minutes earlier than it did.
I would have to agree with the intrigue being based on the previous films. Although I have to disagree with the hope coming into the films. I believe the film was better than what I expected to be based on the hype and the trailers. But that's just my own personal feelings on that. Although the motivations are weak, all the characters just seem to be there for the sole reason of comparing them to a comic book. There was a clear ending for me, but it kept dragging on past that. Like you said, it should have ended a little earlier, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. It just lost my interest past that point. Now, on to our rating. We each have our own ratings, but we're going to explain it to you first.
Yeah, so there's going to be 4 different categories. If we think this movie is awesome, like it's great, you must see it ASAP, opening weekend, we're going to say run to the theater now. If we think the movie's pretty good, not amazing, but you should definitely see it before it leaves theaters, we're going to say see it before it leaves the theater.
If our rating says something like wait for streaming, we don't think it's worth the money to see the film. So just wait until it goes on a streaming service or even renting it.
Which you eventually will, of course, like all movies do.
And then last but not least, there's also, I guess, last and least, if it's forgettable and you shouldn't waste your time on it, we'll say skip it.
So our 4 ratings: run to the theater now, see it before it leaves theaters, wait for streaming, and skip it. Michaela, what are you giving Glass?
Now, I'm going to give it a see it before it leaves theaters because I think the visuals are good for the big screen. But what do you think about it?
Me? I'm going to give it a wait for streaming. I just think it leans more negatively than compared to positively for me. There are a lot of things that I enjoyed about it, but really at the end of the day, it just didn't hold up like the previous 2 films in the franchise did.
Well, there you have it. Our take on Glass by M. Night Shyamalan. But thank you so much for listening to our non-spoiler review. Be sure to comment what you feel and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at outoftheboxpod, and even email us at outoftheboxpod@gmail.com. Let us know what you think about the film if you saw it, and stay tuned for our next podcast.